Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. And thank you for joining us for this important webinar as we launch phase 2 of the Digital Demand-Driven Electricity Network Initiative, which we call 3DEN. My name is Miriam Touhani, and I am the head of the Finance Unit from the United Nations Environment Programme, and I'm based in Paris, and I will be your moderator today. Today's event is an exciting step forward in accelerating climate action and the adoption of digital solutions across 8 countries: Brazil, South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Tanzania. Our agenda is designed to provide insight into the 3DEN initiative's accomplishments and the next steps with the launch of the second call for proposal. So without further delay, let me introduce our esteemed speakers who bring a wealth of expertise and vision to this initiative. Our first speaker is Mr. Alessandro Gheri, the Director General of the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security. Mr. Gheri has been a leading voice in shaping Italy's energy transition policies and fostering international collaboration for sustainable energy solutions. He will set the stage by sharing the state of the art and future perspective of the 3DEN initiative. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Alessandro Gheri. Mr. Alessandro, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Dear Mrs. Docouto, Mr. Mattei, dear speakers, participants, we are really honored to open today's webinar and introduce the second call for pilot projects supported by Italy under the 3DEN initiative. Italy is committed to advancing innovative solutions to tackle the world's environmental challenges, including climate change, the global energy crisis, and the high energy costs, which significantly impact economies, particularly in emerging and developing countries. Italy advocates for closer multi-stakeholder collaboration among governments, international organizations, the private sector, and research institutions to enhance our efforts to combating climate change and advancing decarbonization realistically and pragmatically. This collaborative approach ensures reciprocity and aligns with our Prime Minister's strategic vision in foreign policies. The clean energy transition presents an opportunity to put this approach into practice. Italy emphasized the need for investments in more digitalized power systems to reduce greenhouse gas emission, enhance energy efficiency, and increase energy access, especially for the most vulnerable countries. In this regard, cooperation among multiple stakeholders can accelerate the implementation of policies and technologies, facilitate the sharing of lessons learned, and strengthen engagement around financing and investment. The Italian Ministry for the Environment and Energy Security is delighted to support the 3DEN initiative. EAI contributes by analyzing the policy, technology, and investment landscape essential for accelerating the digitalization of power systems in emerging and developing economies. Meanwhile, UNEP assists in selecting and implementing significant pilot projects. During the phase 1, 3DEN financed, as was mentioned, projects in Brazil, Colombia, India, Morocco, which test different digitalization approaches for flexible and resilient energy systems. The selected projects have provided an opportunity to gain on the ground insight, test new approaches, and disseminate key learning that will feed into the 3DEN initiative phase 2. As highlighted in the G7 Climate, Energy and Environment Communique adopted in 2024 during the G7 in Turin ministerial meeting for climate and energy, it was recognized the crucial role of the 3DEN initiative in fostering international collaboration on smart and digital energy technology and endorsed a phase 2 that we are presenting today. To achieve these goals and continue advancing digital, resilient, and smart clean energy systems, I'm proud to announce, on behalf of our government, our decision to fund a second phase of the 3DEN. This new chapter builds on the lesson from phase one. It extends project activities to several African countries in line with the Italian Piano Mattei plan for Africa and the Rome process, and according to the priorities of the G7 Italian presidency set last year, 2024. Within this framework, the new call for pilot project aims to accelerate the digitalization of agro-food and urban systems, focusing geographically on Africa and Brazil. By adding the second phase, Italy has contributed 20 million euros to the 3DEN initiative since 2020. Today, UNEP is going to present the details of the call for pilot project and explaining the steps of the selection process. We appreciate your participation in this webinar, and we really look forward to receiving valuable project ideas regarding urban and agri-food systems. Together, let us continue to drive forward the clean energy transition, as the saved energy is the greenest one. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Gary. And as a representative of UNEP, I'm always delighted to work with the Italian Ministry. We've been having a very long, fruitful relationship and collaboration. So let me now introduce you to our new Deputy Director of the Climate Change Division, Mrs. Ruth Dokuto. She is, as I just mentioned, the Deputy Director of the Climate Change Division at the United Nations Environment Programme. Mrs. Dokuto's extensive work in climate policy and action underscored her commitment to driving a global solution for a sustainable future. She will share UNEP's perspective on the 3DEN initiative and its significance in addressing global climate challenges. Let's welcome Ruth Dokuto. Ruth, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Dear Mr. Gary and dear Mr. Mattei, Brian, it's a pleasure for me to be here and an honor as well. I will wait until you can put it into presentation mode, and then we should be able to start.
Okay.
Perfect. I think everybody's seeing it now. So good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for joining us today, as Miriam said, as we gather to discuss the next steps in the Digital Demand-Driven Networks initiative called 3DEN. As it has been already mentioned, this is a joint endeavor between UNEP, the International Energy Agency, and with the generous support by the Italian Ministry for Environment and Energy Security. It is really an inspiring testament to the power of collaboration and innovation, as Mr. Gary, you have alluded to. And to that, today I really would like to highlight the strong and enduring relationship between UNEP and the Italian Ministry, the strategic importance of supporting digitalization pilot projects, and the significant outcomes of the phase one of the 3DEN. I just want to remind us that at COP29, Mr. Fatih Birol from IEA clearly told us that for us to be able to achieve the tripling of renewable energy and the doubling of energy efficiency by 2030, there are two important issues that we need to address. One is energy storage, and the other one is grid flexibility and grid management. And without that, this is not going to be possible. And that really makes the 3DEN project spot on and very important because managing massive amounts of renewables in the grid really calls for digital solutions that are intelligent, they're demand-driven, and they are smart. So this has been a long-standing collaboration between UNEP and the Italian Ministry. Since 2002, UNEP and the Ministry have been working hand in hand to advance sustainable energy solutions over the years. This partnership has flourished, creating a foundation for transformative initiatives that have catalyzed change across regions. I remember when I was in UNEP and I was going across to Miriam to Hami and talking to her about the Mediterranean Renewable Energy Program, about the Mediterranean Investment Facility, and how innovative these approaches were, especially in the Tunisia solar water heaters and PVs, and how these financial mechanisms were extremely important and innovative for the upscaling of the approach of decentralized renewable energy. The 3DEN initiative that then came after the several phases of the Mediterranean Investment Facility and the Sustainable Energy Facility was launched in 2021 together with the International Energy Agency. And we're now expanding this legacy to a phase 2 that Miriam alluded to, is going to cover additional countries with a focus keeping Brazil because of the COP20 and focusing in Africa. So this is something that will really contribute for the decarbonization of the industry, but also on energy efficiency. So maybe we can move to the next slide. In face of climate change, digitalization really emerged as a cornerstone, as I mentioned, of sustainable energy systems. It enables precise management of resources, it reduces waste, it optimizes processes, all of which are critical to achieving our global climate goals. Yet, while the potential of digital technologies is evident, scaling their deployment requires strategic investment in pilot projects that will provide evidence, the technical and economic feasibility for the upscaling. And this is exactly the space that 3DEN is addressing. Pilot projects serve as vital testing grounds, demonstrating commercial, environmental, technical, even legal viability of digital solutions to bridge the gap between innovation and market adoption. Creating sustainable business models that attract further investment is key. The Italian Ministry's support has been instrumental in enabling us to launch these pilot projects, ensuring they deliver actionable insights and pave the way for wider implementation. Moreover, financing digitalization is not just about fighting technologies, but empowering communities. As Mr. Guerri correctly said, there is a lack of energy access, especially in the African continent, and it's important that communities do have access to energy. So by allocating resources to pilot projects, we invest in building also local capacities, we foster digital literacy, and we enable communities to become active participants in their energy transition. This inclusive approach ensures that the benefits of digitalization are shared equitably, fostering resilience and sustainability at all levels. If we can now move to the next slide, I think it gives us a snapshot of the outcomes of these pilot projects of the phase 1 of 3DEN in India, Colombia, Brazil, and Morocco. So I'm not going to go too much into the detail, but I'll just give you a little bit of information because now we're launching phase 2, but it's also good to take a step back and look at what we have achieved. So in India, for instance, a consortium led by Panitech Power collaborated with TERI. TERI is the Energy and Resource Institute in India, and developed a digital twin for electric distribution grids. This real-time digital replica improved grid reliability, enhanced outage management, and reduced the costs for electricity for 20,000 consumers in Delhi. The project has already demonstrated scalability for broader adoption, not only in India, but nationwide. So this is one of the types of criteria that I'm sure the phase 2 will be looking at. So what are the evidence for upscaling through either demonstrations or policy making? And I think this was a very good choice in the phase 1. In Colombia, for instance, the Eneflex project engaged over 100,000 users in demand response initiatives, reducing power interruptions and emissions. By integrating flexibility technologies, it also promoted the regulatory reforms, setting the stage for a more adaptive energy market, and increased also the reliability of services in Bogota. So this is, again, a grid management, grid congestion type of project that really supported the demand side response as a way to increase grid availability. In Brazil, it's a different approach. It's digital districts. So it's called the Planet Smart City, and it was implemented through digital tools in social housing projects, empowering residents to manage their own energy consumption in a more effective way. This approach allowed the reduction of waste, it lowered the cost of the energy bills, and it showcased the tangible benefits of digitalization in residential energy management. And the interesting thing about that, it's in Fortaleza where you have a lot of renewables because the cost of the state is very windy and there is a lot of wind farms. But if the community save resources in terms of electricity bills, this is shared throughout all the electricity bills. So not only you reduce your own, but you are contributing to everybody within that approach. So it's a very interesting endeavor. In Morocco, it was an industrial pilot project. So we partnered with Les Eaux Minérales de Ulm, we call LEMO, and the initiative upgraded energy monitoring systems, achieving a really remarkable 25% reduction in energy consumption by project end. There is a massive potential for energy efficiency reduction in the industrial sector, and the more it's tracked and the more this is promoted, this is a very low-cost approach to tap in, and we call it a very low-hanging fruit. IEA keeps telling us energy efficiency, it's an important one, and I think now we have very good evidence, and it highlights the opportunity for digitalization and artificial intelligence in industrial processes. So these pilots demonstrate collectively the economic and environmental value of digital technologies, providing compelling evidence for their broader adoption. I'm sure that if you're interested, there are videos and more information in each of the pilots. I won't be able to go into depth, but all of them are very interesting, and I think it proves how successful phase 1 was. Now, let me introduce in the next slide the phase 2. So the phase 2 will be expanding across Africa, building on the successes and the lessons learned. I think, as Mr. Guerri has said, Africa is an area of focus of the Piano Mattei. The idea is to also retain Brazil that was a very successful approach, but also because of the COP30 leadership. South Africa is one of the countries, again, because they are leading the G20 initiative. So I think it's very strategic because they can actually insert these into the COP presidency documents and the G20 communique on energy transition. So I think it's a very good approach. Africa is really poised to benefit immensely from digitalization with its rapid growing population, diverse economic challenges, creating very unique opportunities for transformative impact by focusing on two areas this call. One is going to be digitalization in agriculture, and the other one is urban energy systems. So the phase 2 will expand the countries and have two focus areas where projects can be submitted. So if we can move to slide 6. In agriculture, digital tools will support precision farming, smart irrigation, digital marketplaces, empowering farmers to optimize resource use and improve food security. These technologies can revolutionize agricultural practices, reducing waste and ensuring sustainable resource management. Precision agriculture, for instance, can enable farmers to make data-driven decisions, enhancing productivity while conserving water and other inputs. Smart irrigation systems, guided by real-time data, can also significantly reduce water wastage, an essential feature for many water-scarce regions in Africa. This is a very important choice, in my view, for pilots, because especially in agriculture, small scaling farming and middle scaling farmer, if they lose one crop, they don't have enough resources for the next crop. So working in a project that can provide that space for them to test and to believe that there is a different way to do, which can actually save resources, is paramount. So I really applaud the choice of this focus area. In urban energy systems, smart grids, real-time monitoring, and data analytics, we will enhance energy reliability and sustainability in rapidly growing cities. These solutions not only address immediate challenges such as power outages, but also lay the groundwork for integrating renewable energy sources into urban grids. Demand response systems, for example, can enable more efficient energy consumption patterns, reducing peak loads, and minimizing the environmental footprint of urban energy use. There is a massive opportunity to do this in cities. There is the Internet of Things. There is the possibility of consumers managing their demand sides of smart grids, smart metering. So again, it's a very interesting low-hanging fruit, and then really helps cities or neighborhoods to look into this in a way that can link to renewable energy sources and decentralized renewables. So I'm not going to go into the detail because following me after Brian takes his intervention, Art is going to talk in more detail about the criteria for this call. But I just wanted to outline that we are fully aligned with this choice, and we believe that this is going to provide a lot of evidence for policymaking going forward. As we move forward with this strategic initiative, the role of partnerships and financing cannot be overstated. UNEP and I believe IEA and the Ministry of in Italy, we all remain committed to working with governments, the private sector, and other stakeholders to ensure that these digital solutions are not only implemented, but sustained over time. And if you take time to look into the criteria, this is embedded in the criteria to submit proposals to this second phase. Together, we can turn the promise of digitalization into a reality, creating a low carbon and resilient future for all. The journey ahead requires a shared commitment, of course, to innovation, inclusivity, and resilience. By fostering a culture of collaboration, we can harness the power of digital technologies to create a sustainable and lasting change. So this is not merely an investment in infrastructure or technology, but investment in people, communities, and the planet. So without further ado, I would like to reiterate our deepest gratitude to the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security and their unwavering support to all of our commitment and your commitment to these vital cause. So thank you very much for your support, and Miriam, back to you and your team to lead us through this excellent work that you are undertaking with the support of the Energy Ministry and in cooperation with IEA. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ruth. Thank you. So let me, without further delay, introduce you to our third speaker, Mr. Brian Mattei. Mr. Mattei is head of Energy Efficiency and Inclusive Transition Office at the International Energy Agency. Dr. Mattei has been instrumental in advancing the global energy efficiency agenda and inclusive energy transition. He will elaborate on the IEA role in this initiative and its broader implications for energy systems. Mr. Brian Mattei, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Miriam, and good afternoon, everybody, and particular thanks to UNEP for organising today, but also thanks to Director General Gary, dear Alessandro. It's a pleasure to be here with you today and continuing our excellent collaboration. And to Ruth, of course, thank you for your leadership and for your participation today. And we're delighted to be part of this collaborative family on this really important topic. And let me start by commending Italy and the ministry in particular for showing such vision to highlight this topic over several years now since we started conversations around 3DEN, which is about more than 5 years ago now. And Italy's strategic decision to focus on electricity, on grids, on digitalization, realizing the importance of this topic. And we see that in IEA analysis. We see the critical role of electricity for energy security, for affordable energy, and of course for clean energy transitions. And we see electrification as a real driver of change in energy systems right now. We in the IEA have said that we're entering into an age of electricity, and that's driven by the fact that in the last decade, electricity consumption globally has grown at over twice the rate of energy demand growth as a whole, and in the coming few years it could be 5 or 6 times that rate, because we see a lot of energy loads shifting to electricity, be it electric vehicles, heat pumps, electrification of other loads, driven by the possibilities of electrification, the greater levels of efficiency, and of course the penetration of renewables that are becoming ever cheaper, such as solar and wind power. And along with that growth agenda, then we see a modernization agenda. We need infrastructure, physical and virtual, capable of driving that growth and keeping systems resilient and robust and affordable and doing their job. And our analysis shows that over the coming 15 years or so, around the globe, we're going to need to add or refurbish a total of over 80 million kilometers of grid line, either to bring it up to modern conditions or to extend grids or to bring power to people that don't have it already. And all of that growth and modernization agenda needs to center on digitalization. In our view, we can't imagine a more electrified world driven by renewables, driven by efficiency, delivering the energy services people need without a strong deployment of digital and other such tools to really make control possible, optimization possible, keep investment levels down, and keep the energy security and resilience that we need in the context of clean energy transitions. And so we've been delighted to be working very closely, first of all, of course, with the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security, and of course also with UNEP, to really identify the policy issues that governments need to think about and industry needs to think about in terms of that agenda. What are the digital tools that are becoming available? What possibilities are opening up because of digitalization, particularly with a focus on the demand side, thinking about consumers having access to affordable, secure and clean energy, and having the access to the modern quality of life and growth opportunities that energy access and affordability brings to people, but doing so in a way that is resilient, that is efficient, that keeps investment down as much as possible, keeps emissions down as much as possible. And we've been delighted to be part of this 3DEN initiative over several years now, which between our analytical work and UNEP's management of some really interesting pilots on the ground that you've already heard about, I think has revealed a lot that governments have learned from already and will continue to learn from. I particularly also want to commend Italy's global leadership by bringing this agenda to the table through 3DEN, through its engagement certainly here with all of our members of the IEA, but also in particular through its leadership in G20 and G7, where it has really pushed forward the global dialogue in a substantive and meaningful way to really understand this agenda and how to be ready for it, how to anticipate it, how to enable it, while also managing risks and managing cost issues. So as we move to the second phase, I think it's a really important time right now here in 2025 as we think about what we have learned and what we can learn from the next phase of analysis, from engagement, and of course for the next tranche of pilot projects. So we're delighted to see Italy generously funding and UNEP now starting to put out the call to see what kind of projects come up. We of course hope they will be at least as fascinating and as informative as the first set of projects, and we know that we will learn a lot from it. So we're really looking forward to this phase. And again, I really want to thank our good friends and collaborators, both in UNEP and in the Italian ministry, and particularly thank the generosity of the Italian government for continuing to show its leadership to fund this work and to continue to drive this agenda globally. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Brian. Always same thing. Always nice working with you in phase one, but looking forward to working again and enhancing our collaboration. So thank you for all our speakers for their insightful presentations. So moving forward, we will dive into the transition from phase one to phase two of the 3DEN initiative and the core proposal launching today. So leading this session, I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Art Tarap, who will provide an overview of the second core proposal. Art, over to you.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Art Saraf. I coordinate the 3DEN initiative on the UNEP side. Today, I'm going to introduce you to the exciting developments that we have planned for the initiative as we transition into phase two. So this initiative, which is jointly implemented, as you heard, by UNEP and IEA, with the generous support of the Italian Ministry for the Environment and Energy Security, is really pushing the boundaries of digitalization in energy systems. As Ruth mentioned earlier in her comments, one of the primary focuses for us is to really bridge the gap between innovation and market adoption by showcasing the commercial viability and environmental benefits of digital technologies and tools. So in phase one, we laid the groundwork for this with pilot projects in Colombia, Brazil, India, and Morocco, which we supported through a call of proposal, really mirroring the one that we're launching here today. Now, these projects span multiple sectors that included industry, housing, power sector. And for phase two, we really want to build on this foundation by broadening the scope, particularly focusing on Africa, a continent with immense potential for energy transformation. The overarching objectives for us and the projects we're seeking to support in phase two include accelerating the digital transformation of power systems, enhancing energy efficiency, boosting climate change resilience, and contributing to socio-economic development. So just as we did in phase one of the initiative, we're pleased to officially open the call for proposals, soliciting a range of pilot projects in the following focus areas. So in phase two, we're going to focus on two key thematic areas. The first one, as was mentioned, is the agro-food sector. Agriculture, especially in Africa, faces critical energy challenges. There's high energy consumption, resource inefficiency, market access issues, which really plague the sector. We believe that digital tools like IoT-enabled irrigation systems, blockchain for supply chain transparency, AI-based predictive maintenance tools can really revolutionize this sector. So by helping to address these inefficiencies, we believe that solutions can really support sustainability, productivity, and economic growth. Additionally, we would also like to see innovative financial models that are being explored that can make these tools accessible to small and medium-sized farmers, thereby fostering inclusivity in this transformation. Now, for the second thematic area of urban energy systems, rapid urbanization has put a lot of pressure on existing infrastructure, making energy modernization really essential. Smart grids, AI-driven energy management systems, and renewable energy integration, for instance, microgrids or EV charging stations, can really form the backbone of solutions. Our goal here is to enhance resilience, improve efficiency, as well as to ensure sustainable energy access in growing urban centers. Furthermore, urban projects will consider how to integrate these technologies with public services, so for instance, transport, making cities both smarter and more sustainable overall. Geographically, in phase two, we expand to South Africa. As has been mentioned, South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Kenya, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and Tanzania, while retaining Brazil as a key leader. Now, these regions were chosen based on their urgent energy needs and the potential for impact, really having an impactful transformation. Now, the diverse economic context in which these regions also provide a really unique opportunity to test and adapt digital technologies for different markets. Moving on to the examples of eligible projects. First, for the agro-food sector, we have a range of eligible projects. First of all, we have smart irrigation systems that could be supported by IoT or AI to help optimize water use. We could have blockchain-enabled supply chain solutions to help increase transparency and to enable eco-labeling. We could have hybrid energy systems which combine solar and biomass to ensure that there's reliable energy access in rural areas. And we could also have digital twins for optimizing agro-processing facilities, reducing emissions, and improving throughput. So through these projects, the aim is really to address specific challenges such as water scarcity, high post-harvest losses, which would make agriculture not only more efficient, but also more resilient, more resistant to the effects of climate change. On the urban energy system side, examples include Internet of Things-based smart grids to balance loads and prevent outages, AI-powered demand-side management to align energy consumption with real-time conditions, microgrids and battery-integrated renewable solutions to stabilize energy supplies, digital twins for entire neighborhoods to simulate energy scenarios as well as to optimize resource use. A key aspect I should note here is the role of behavioral change technologies. So for instance, gamified apps to engage urban residents in energy savings practice. So we believe that by encouraging end user participation, this can be really critical to the success of urban energy projects. Now, moving on towards the eligibility and selection criteria for the pilot projects. There are a certain set of prerequisites that must be met for a proposal to be eligible. Eligible proposals must, of course, conform to the thematic and geographical focus areas which were covered previously. And their budget should be, the grant requested should be between $500,000 and $2 million. We also expect that there be co-funding coming in from the side of the consortiums of at least 30%. This is to ensure that the consortiums are also invested in the concept and want to take it forward after the end of the grant funding. We require that projects be implemented within 24 months, and they should be led by international consortia, which would include a potential blend of public, private, and research expertise. We also wish to see consortiums submit a memorandum of understanding or sign letters of intent, which include all members of the consortium and indicate the consortium head. The consortium head being the representative of the proposal and accepting fiduciary responsibility in case of a grant award. So the selection process is quite rigorous. We have 3 primary evaluation criteria. The first one is transformational impact and sustainability. We expect projects to demonstrate measurable improvements in energy efficiency, resilience, and of course, their alignment with SDGs. So this could be reduction of GHG emissions. This could also be improved energy or resource efficiency and contribution to climate resilience. Beyond the environmental benefits, we also encourage the proposals to outline social impacts. So for instance, creating local employment opportunities, empowering women in the energy sector. The second key criteria for us is scalability, replicability, and additionality. So here we expect that proposals should have clear pathways for broader adoption and showcase the unique benefits that go beyond current practices. By highlighting innovative partnerships and potential for regional adaptation, we believe that we will have stronger proposals. Proposals should also demonstrate the unique benefits that would not occur without our grant support. So this could be potentially unlocking new funding sources or financial models that would not have been realized without the initiative, improvements in efficiency or biodiversity that go beyond existing practices or compliance requirements, or deployment of innovative or underutilized technologies as AI, blockchain, and pressing challenge. Final pillar is technical feasibility and financial viability. Here we assess the practicality and readiness of proposed solution, along with, of course, a robust monitoring network, which is really key. Proposals must demonstrate that the solution is practical and based on proven technologies or approaches. This means that the proposed technology should be established and ready for deployment rather than experimental or research-based. Proposals must also be in line with local and national regulatory frameworks. We place an emphasis on how projects plan to sustain themselves post-funding, ensuring that there's continuity, long-term benefits from the grant award. Finally, our aim is to fund projects that are innovative, impactful, and ready to scale, with an eye towards long-term sustainability and adaptation in diverse environments. Digging a little bit more into the details of the eligible and ineligible costs, you will find these details in the call for proposal document. So I will just quickly run through them. You might be familiar with some of them if you have applied in the past for EU Horizon proposals. We have caps on overhead up to 20%, project management up to 7%, hardware purchase up to 15%. These are under the eligible costs. In terms of what is not eligible, we have basic research, we have indirect taxes, salary increases, overtime costs, as well as individual company investments. And what we mean by this is we want consortiums to apply. We expect that consortiums submit proposals with the consortium head, of course, but we will not be funding individual companies. The grant funding would be awarded to the consortium composed of multiple institutions. So these guidelines are really there to ensure funds are directed towards impactful activities that align with the initiative's goals. Proposals should really carefully allocate their budgets to maximize their effectiveness and efficiency. Moving on to the application process and timeline. The application process involves several steps to ensure transparency and rigor. So first, we have the eligibility screening. And here we review proposals to ensure their conformity with the focus areas, the prerequisites that I covered earlier, the budget co-funding requirements. This is followed by an assessment phase where an independent committee will evaluate the projects based on the aforementioned criteria. Following this assessment, we go through a shortlisting and due diligence process. Here, the top ranking proposals go through validation for both their financial and technical feasibility, and the due diligence, which can, of course, also include virtual meetings and in-person site visits with the consortiums. After the due diligence process, applicants that clear this process go to the grant award decision. This is when we announce the successful projects, followed by the signature of the grant support agreements. And finally, of course, we have implementation and reporting, which is when we start consortiums start carrying out the activities. They must, of course, submit regular progress reports and participate in monitoring activities. Throughout this implementation phase, we do expect that the applicants also contribute to knowledge sharing initiatives, ensuring that their insights and best practices benefit a wider audience. So a couple of key notes to date, you can see them in the presentation, but just to highlight, the call for proposals was officially opened last Monday, and we have a submission deadline of the 23rd of May. We expect the project implementation to begin towards the end of the year in Q4, and we do the assessment in the interim. So now, accessing the call for proposal, for more information, I do request that you visit our project website, 3den.energy-base.org. The project site contains the detailed call for proposal, the application form, which will soon include frequently asked questions in the coming days, as well as other useful resources, including the slides from this presentation. This webinar will also be uploaded to YouTube. We will send you all a link to rewatch, to share with colleagues who might be interested in potentially submitting proposals. And once, of course, your proposals are ready, you may submit them via email to 3den@energy-base.org. So this initiative really represents a pivotal step towards sustainable energy systems. By embracing digitalization, we can address global energy challenges while fostering socioeconomic growth. I encourage all eligible stakeholders to participate. Please do share amongst your network. We really appreciate it, and help us contribute to this transformative journey. Thank you very much. Back over to you, Miriam, before we cover the Q&A.
Thank you, Art. So, thank you very much, and I hope that I know I see in the chat that we have a lot of questions, but thanks, Art, for the comprehensive overview. We will now open the floor for the question and answer session. Please feel free to submit your questions, and we will try to address as many as possible before we, what orally, and the one that we cannot do here, we'll definitely answer them on the chat. So let me, with Art. Okay, let's, where do we get questions? Okay. Okay, so let me start with the first question I see on my screen. What business models do we prioritize for deployment of concrete and pilot projects? This question is from Rashid in Nasiri. So the models that we would like to see are the ones that can be sustainable over time. It is indeed for this phase, we will of course co-finance the largest part, which is a maximum of 70%. But we need to see a model that is sustainable over time, meaning replicable, and meaning that over time it justifies and it pays for itself. For example, I can give you, we will not, it will be difficult for us to proceed in supporting a project that is very short in the time, or for example, a project where we have to finance a software or a technology that is that cannot be sustainable by itself over time, which will require a lot of support and maintenance over time. So really, business models that need a push to start, but needs to be completed and need to be run by themselves. So, Mr. Inasiri, and then of course, if you have any more questions, to them on a chat, and then of course we will respond to them later on. Greetings from Brazil. We have a question from Mr. Matoso. Could the project can be submitted by small companies? Yes, indeed, but they need to be within a consortium, because if a project is by just one small company, it will not be able to reach the minimum criteria that we have set. So we do encourage small companies to be to take part of a consortium, a much larger one, in order to apply and to respond to the minimum requirements. Could you provide more details about co-funding? How strict is this requirement? And any example or any advice for addressing this example? Yes, so correct me, Art, if I'm wrong, but the co-financing is a strict requirement. We will require a minimum of 30% co-financing from the consortium. It will be one requirement that is not cannot be discussed. Any proposal that do not respect that minima will be of course disqualified. So I hope I answered that question as well. So I do have questions from this one is too long. I'm gonna have to go back to it later. Question I do not answer.
We will, if you leave your emails in the chat, we can get back to you on some of the other questions. We also, if you want to reach out to us, please do. I think our email should be available on one of the slides. They're also in the call for proposal document. So for the questions that we don't get to now, we're happy to take them individually. You can reach out to myself, to Miriam, to Carolina, and you will find these email addresses once you access the call for proposal from the project website.
Thank you, Art. One of the questions we have is, are the projects dealing with policy creation eligible in this area? Indeed, yes, Mr. Resta. The project dealing with policy creation is important. What we try to do with this call for proposal we try to show example that then we show the results to the governments to allow them to come up with policies. And this is why we're working with IEA, because as Mr. Brian Motherway mentioned, we as UNEP, we prove the concept, and then the translation into a policy is then being done by IEA, and then we present that to the government. So it is very important indeed to have policy creation as well. Let me go back to some of the questions. What is the role of each partner like UNEP, IEA? Maybe you can answer that question. We have a question on what is the role of UNEP and the role of IEA and the role of the ministry across the project line, design and the implementation. What is the required level of project maturity? Is idea level design, implementation of financial close?
Yeah, so at least for the first half of this question, in terms of what is the role of each partner, UNEP is, of course, coordinating this call for proposal. So our role is to be part of this selection process and then accompany the consortiums as they do the implementation of the project. The role of IEA is on the policy side to take the lessons learned, the data that is coming out of these pilot projects, and use that really to create that learning environment to be able to, so that the information, all of the valuable information that is generated by the projects can be shared and can be replicated by other actors. So this is the role of UNEP and IEA. And of course, we're supported in all of this by the Ministry of Energy Security, of Environment and Energy Security. What is the required level of project maturity? As was mentioned in the slide on eligible and ineligible costs, what we are not trying to cover here is something that is very much at the level of basic research. We are not close to, we are open to funding projects which might be slightly risky. However, we do require you to explain why you believe that these projects will be successful, financially viable. And this is information that will have to be provided by the consortium members, by the consortium lead as part of the application form.
Thank you, Art. Another question is on the co-financing. Would public or research centers, bodies will also participate in co-financing? The question is yes. In fact, what we require is we have a consortium that will present a project. The consortium will have to come with minimum 30%. Now, where the money comes from, it is not of that important, but it is important that the consortium is presenting the project as one entity, and that one entity is providing the 30% minimum co-financing. So can we also apply, another question would be, can we also apply for the same project in 2 separate countries? The question can be yes and no, but it is the exact same consortium in 2 different countries. So that it will be considered as one project where you're implementing in 2 countries, but it will be considered as one project, one consortium. Now, if the consortium is different, meaning there is one lead company in Morocco, for example, and another lead company in Kenya, for example, then that could be considered 2 projects, 2 separate projects. But the same exact project in 2 separate countries will be considered as one project. So they will be eligible for one funding, not twice. Any other questions? Hello, are there any rules to justify the expenses under the cost category overhead?
So for this one, Ines, I would suggest that you take a look at the detailed call for proposal document, which you will be able to access at the project website. This should have a little bit more clarification. If doubt remains, you can reach out if there's a specific item that you are thinking about under overhead. You can reach out to us and let us know, and we will get back to you about specifically this item.
Thank you. Are there any criteria for the consortium, for the constitution of the consortium? You will, once again, in the core proposal, you'll have all the answers to these questions.
There's also one by Giovanni above. How many partners can be involved for each of the countries listed in the call? As many as you like, as many as you think are relevant for and make sense for the project proposal.
Are ESCO's models eligible? Yeah. Yes, they can be, of course, sure. Mr. Inasiri, yes, the ESCO model is eligible. Now, of course, the ESCO should be owned by a consortium, once again. Question from Mrs. Juliette. Are governments, regulatory authorities in the energy sector eligible to apply for this particular core proposal? This is a call really to showcase pilot projects, usually by the private sector. Now, if there is a governmental agency or an authority that has any idea that can be implemented, they need to come up with a consortium. We are not against having a governmental authority part of a consortium, but it cannot be the lead because we need to show the sustainability, the involvement of the private sector. So you will again see more details in the core proposal for the eligibility of any agency. Does the proposal cover building the software and installation too?
Yes.
So that is quick and simple. We have a lot more questions. Can you read that first?
So can scientific and professional international associations such as IEEE apply through special programs oriented to the actual implementation? Yes, I believe they can. Are there limitations to the use of grant funds? For example, if we are able to secure CapEx investment for a project from other sources, maybe use the grant to only fund staff, analysis and sharing of findings. It depends on whether your costs for these items are within the maximum percentages that we've established within the eligibility criteria. So I do suggest preparing the budget and taking a look at what those limits are, and we're of course available for further clarifications if necessary.
Can we propose multiple projects in multiple countries?
Yes.
Yes, it is possible. But once again, it will be difficult to finance and to provide funding for the same project in different countries, or provide the funding just for one leading consortium. So please send us a more detailed question by email, and then we will try to respond to that. What is the number of consortium applicants max and minimum?
So there is no maximum, but in terms of minimum, I think I mean you could potentially submit a proposal with two consortium members, but then we need to determine whether this is going to be relevant or not, whether those two members of the consortium are sufficient to address the challenges that are part of the problem statement in the concept note. So if we judge this to be the case, then 2 is fine. But if not, if it's just 2, because as I said, this is part of the process is to have collaborative partnerships to create a learning environment, and the more members of the consortium there are, the more opportunities there are for collaboration, increasing the learnings, and that's also part of what this initiative is all about.
Thank you. So any eligibility criteria for the lead partner of the consortium, you will find all that information in the core proposal. Yes, there are some criteria to be eligible. All the details will be in the core proposal. Okay. some email addresses. Does this cover clean cook stove? Not really, because it is not really considered as digital. No, I would say no for that question.
There was a question, I believe, earlier about whether the lead applicant must be in the geographic focused countries. I don't believe this is the case. Miriam, correct me if I'm wrong, but there must be, the consortium must have a significant presence within the country in which they plan to run the project. So this could be one of the other consortium members. This could be some kind of partnership, but there needs to be a significant presence in the selected country.
Okay. Does the UNDP Rome have stake in this project? I would assume that you mean by Rome Center, the center that is based in Rome. So UNDP as such cannot take part of the call, but the project or the company, the institution that UNDP Rome Center is helping in Africa, yes, they can. Meaning that the funding from this project will go directly to the private companies in the countries, not to UNDP Rome Center.
On that note, I think there were a couple of questions on this. It's worth mentioning that for the purposes of this call for proposal, UN institutions are not eligible, so we are not accepting applications from UN institutions. They're not eligible for this call.
But once again, I know that the UNDP Rome Center is trying to push for some projects in the countries. We can, of course, support those projects. So we're not supporting UN agencies, but we are supporting all the work that UN agencies are doing in the country. See, overhead, the take up of 20% of the budget. Is there a list of what is considered as overhead? I think we have that in the core proposal. You will have all the details on that in the core. Is there a way to fund potential consortium members through the FIDEN website? Not really, I mean.
Not at the moment.
Yeah.
We can potentially explore, but that's unlikely for the moment. So I think we're running close to time, so we'll go through as many more questions as possible. But those that we don't get to, please, we will, if you can leave your email addresses or reach out to us, you can find them in the call for proposal document. We're available to answer any queries where you just reach out to us, and we'll do our best to get back to you ASAP.
So maybe let me take one last question. Is the application implementation in consortium or by single entity? It should be a consortium. Okay. Can the institute outside the geographic focus countries be the lead applicant? Yes, as long as the project is taking place in focus countries. And then it also has some physical presence in the countries we are targeting. Let me take one last question. Do you see a role for NGOs joining the consortium? Of course, yes. NGOs can play an important role in the consortium because they bring a lot of the time, a lot of local presence and knowledge of the local system. What do we mean? I can see. Okay. So let's see, last question. What is the capacity of this partnership of UNEP IA in effectively supporting and leading the progress across project life cycle? Can you try to understand? We will answer some of those questions. I'm not sure I understand them, so I will answer them in the chat, or sometimes I will send an email.
And please note also that we are compiling a list of the frequently asked questions. This will be compiled based on the questions you're asking us here today. And we will upload this. This will be available, the FAQs on the website as well. So in the coming days, tomorrow you will receive already a few more details, including again another link back to the call for proposal. This webinar will be uploaded online as well. So yes, please, I do request that you go check out the website, and you will find a lot of the information that you're seeking already there.
Thank you, Art. So I think time is running out. Let me first thank the team, and on behalf of the Italian Ministry of Environment and Energy Security, UNEP and IEA, I would like to thank all of you for your participation today. And I will look forward to seeing your innovative proposal and to advancing flexible and resilient and sustainable energy systems together. So thank you very much. Have a wonderful day, and looking forward to receiving your questions, and we will try to answer them thoroughly by email or via the frequent Q&A website. Thank you very much. Thank you all.